My name is Dr. Ifetayo Ojelade. I'm a licensed psychologist and the executive director at A Healing Paradigm. We have a workshop coming up on June 12th. It's the ethics on integrating alternative healing practices into therapy. And if you've been watching this series of workshops, you know that I have three special guests that are coming to talk with us during the workshop. And one of those guests is here with me today, Osundele Olaifa Onifade, who is a priestess in the West African Orisa tradition, and she is also a Reiki Master at the third level. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. So, do me a favor and just start out by letting us know what a Reiki Master is.
So, Reiki is a universal energy. And as a master of Reiki, you've been attuned to different Reiki symbols to give treatments to people, energy treatments to people. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. Reiki is a process of laying on hands. Like if you think about old school church where you go to church and people were sick and they lay hands on you, Reiki is New World. Well, it's actually not that New World because it's been around for the last century, where people literally use their hands to channel life, to channel universal energy and lay their hands on people. I don't know if you can see my hands on the screen here. And the energy from the universe comes down through your hands and into your client's body.
Oh my goodness. I had this sister in Brazil when I was there. I had a Reiki treatment and I only spoke English. She only spoke Portuguese, but we spoke the language of positive energy. Woo! That was so beautiful. I loved it. Now, tell me a little bit about. So, I know that you're a priestess in the Yoruba faith tradition. So, tell me a little bit about what that specifically means.
Okay, so Yoruba or West African Orisa is what I like to call it, because there are so many Yoruba practices in the world, and I practice what is known as West African Orisa tradition. It has some Yoruba names, but I won't bore you with those because it really, I don't think it would have meaning to most of the people watching it. But from my perspective, Southwest Nigeria is where the Yoruba people are from, and I have gone through several initiations in this practice and have received training as a priest so that I can make medicine, do divinations, do sacrificial rituals, and also train other priests who have come behind me. Being a priest and being initiated are not the same. I should say that. I'm sorry for interrupting you. You can become initiated, but it does not mean that you are a working priest. Just because someone gets initiated, it does not mean they have license to work on clients. Unfortunately, it happens a lot in this culture, in the Western culture, where that happens. But just because you're initiated does not make you a priest or priestess.
Okay. And so I know you're initiated to Obatala and Oshun and Ifa and Egbe. Is there
Yeah.
anything that I missed?
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And why those four particular Orisha or deities?
I truly believe you get initiated to a particular egbe, and not egbe as an egbe or room, but a particular orisha, because you just need that orisha's healing energy for your life. So Obatala deals with the head, and the consciousness, and also it deals with coolness. So at the time I was initiated, I was very hot headed, very, very hot headed. And so Obasala came to me through initiation to help cool my energy down and to calm me down. Ifa is the witness of our fate. And so as a priest of Ifa, is like the purpose is for Ifa to correct your destiny. So when I became initiated to Ifa, it was for the purpose of correcting my path, you know, to make sure that I would succeed and do what I came to earth to accomplish. For Oshun is about healing, and as a healer, I'm already a Reiki healer. Working with Oshun helps me with my healing abilities. And Egbe, it helps me keep in contact with my mates in heaven. Egbe are your comrades in heaven. And it's kind of like a spiritual cord or your spiritual fraternity or sorority in heaven. And you make agreements with these spirits before you come to Earth, and then you have to keep these agreements. And what happens is when you're born onto this plane of existence, you forget. And so when your life is out of order and things are not going well, it's generally because something is some agreement that you made in heaven that you've forgotten. So doing the egg bay initiation just helps you recall your agreements and do what you promised you were going to do in heaven.
Now, I know that you said that you are a working priest. So tell me exactly, what does that mean? Like, what do you do?
Oh, okay. Well, I see clients for consultation on a weekly basis. Clients will come to me because they have either they'll have a problem or everything is okay and they want everything to remain okay. And so what I will do, generally my consultations are 16 calorie divination, or sometimes people just need to talk and work things out. But most of my work is through cowrie shell divination. And so I will use my shells and I will receive an Odu, which is a sacred verse from the Orisha or Ifa, and I will give that client direction for their life based on what that sacred text is. It's not a psychic reading. It's literally we divine. We are given a message from the Orisha, and then we are translating the message for our clients. And then from that message, it will tell us this client needs to do a particular sacrifice to adjust their life. And sometimes those sacrifices are foods, sometimes it's cloth or other items that are not, that you wouldn't eat. And sometimes it is life force energy.
Okay. Now, what's the difference between a divination and a psychic reading?
Well, um, with the divination, through the shells, our shells have been blessed and attuned to that Orisha through the initiation process, first of all. So these shells um, are consecrated. That's the word I'm looking for. They're consecrated during our initiation and through the work we do with our elders. And so when we're casting the shells, we're directly communicating with the Orisha. So that's to divine is to speak directly with the divine source. So in my case, the divine source is Orisha or it's Egbe or it's Ifa, depending on what type of divination I'm using. With psychic energy, a person is not using a tool per se. They're just connecting to whatever spirit they're connecting with. And it is not connected to a sacred verse or a sacred text. It's like, oh, I hear a spirit. It could be an ancestral spirit. It could be another spirit. There are some spirits that are not ancestors in the world, but I don't know if we need to go into that during this conversation. But a psychic might be talking to a spirit guide or an ancestor.
Okay.
That's not Orisha and it's not our sacred text. So when I'm saying divination, I am connecting through the sacred text of Ifa and the sacred text of Orisha to give messages specifically from our Odu.
And so you're a Reiki master and you're a priestess
Yes.
in the West African tradition. Do you combine the two?
No, I do not. I don't. So when people come to me for Reiki, they get Reiki, and they are actually not Ifa practitioners. Although I do have some Ifa practitioners that will come to me for Reiki healing, but most of my Reiki clients have nothing to do with my Ifa practice at all.
Okay.
Um, Although what will happen is I have Elay members, and Elay is your spiritual community. It is your temple or your church. It's your Ifa church, right? They're smaller than the churches. They're not like mega churches, right? Your Elay may have 20 members. It may have 50 members. They're small gatherings of people who have decided that they're going to work spiritually together under a chief priest or a priestess. So my Elay members who know that I'm a Reiki master, who have different ailments, will call me and say, Ia, can you send me some Reiki or can I come for a Reiki treatment because I have this particular issue? And Reiki is really great for emotional healing. So if a person is having like a sadness or a depression, it can really shift their emotional body. I also find that Reiki has been good for chronic illnesses more than acute. So if like you break your leg, you're not coming to me to get a Reiki healing because that's not going to help you. But let's say if you have some issues with the blood flow in your veins and it's causing pain, then Reiki can help ease the pain. But it's not like not with. I found that it's less It doesn't work as effectively with acute, very, very sharp, painful situations, at least in my practice. Now, there may be some Reiki practitioners who are able to break through that, but for me, Reiki is really good for emotional stuff and also chronic conditions, or even when people are like sick in the hospital, and going through surgery. Like I've done Reiki for babies, and like the baby turned completely around, and the doctor was like, "We don't know what happened. What did you all do?" What was she, you know? And so also younger patients, I think, are more receptive to the energy than older patients. So I found that from babies to like toddler ages, they what's the word I'm looking for?
Absorb, connect.
They really react and have a positive outcome. So if you have a baby who's cranky or whatever, and you put Reiki on them, that will lay that baby out. You know, like everyone is trying to hold and console a baby and nothing is working. You Reiki the child and the child goes to sleep. It doesn't, I find that as the children get older and they get kind of caught up in the world, that they're less susceptible to the energy.
That's interesting. Why is that?
I just think because they just have a pure intention. And, maybe by the time you get older, there's this doubt that comes in that says, I don't know if it really works. I can't see the energy coming for her hands. What is she doing? Like, these things that adults question that children don't question. A baby is not going to question a mother's hand touching it. It's just not. That's just going to be nurturing for it. And if the hand is warm and it comforts them, then they're going to really just like it. Whereas an adult will be questioning, or an older person will be questioning everything. Even if they're not questioning it out loud, their subconscious is questioning it, and it interferes sometimes with the healing. So you'll find that healers receive Reiki more readily than non-healers because they're already used to dealing with energy and being receptive to the energy.
So what you just said, I didn't even think about that, but what you said is really interesting. Because I know that there are definitely points with certain type of alternative healing practices. I won't name them because I
Mhm.
want people to blast me. Where I
Okay.
just don't do because I'm like I don't believe in that.
Yes.
I just don't agree with that. But then something like Reiki, what made me believe is I remember being pregnant and having Braxton Hicks contractions and just being in so much pain. And my midwife was like, "Here, let me do something," and
Mhm.
it worked. And I was like, "Ooh, okay."
We're taught not to touch our clients, but if I have a relationship with the client, I know them, then I can lay my hands on their body very lightly, you know,
Mhm.
but you don't have to touch them. You don't. Um, I don't think it makes it's easier on your body when you can actually lay your hands directly on the client, because then you're not having to hold your muscle up, and it allows the energy to flow better. But I've done total touch-free sessions. I do distant Reiki healing, which is something that you learn as you get to your third degree. It's like you certain symbols you won't have access to until you get to the higher levels of initiation into Reiki. And those symbols allow you to send energy distantly or remotely to people. What else I want to say really important about Reiki. With Reiki, you are a straw, right? They say you are channeling the energy, but if you will think that you are a straw, the energy is not coming from you. Literally, the energy is out there in the universe, and it is funneled through the straw of your being and out through your hands and into your client. So if you are tired at the end of a Reiki session, that means that you haven't been channeling Reiki. You have been using your own energy, because as a Reiki practitioner, you're supposed to be a straw. That's it. You're a straw. It comes through you. It is not coming from you. So if you're tired, you got a headache, and you just can't drive afterwards, then you're doing something wrong, right? And so I know when people tell me they're exhausted after a healing, it's because they're not channeling Reiki, because Reiki is not intended to make you tired. As you are channeling, the energy is also coming into you and healing you as well. Like it's for you and the client.
Is using a similar analogy when you're divining for people. Is that like you're just a vessel for things?
Mhm. Well, definitely when I open my prayers up with the Orisha, I ask that it is their message that is coming, and that I am able to clearly translate the message that they are giving. I don't look at the same way as me being a channel for them, because I am doing some bit of interpretation. Like, it's
Okay.
based on, like, an Odu will fall, and I have to recall what knowledge I have about that Odu. Ifa is based on knowledge, right? And memory. And so I have to say, okay, from my memory, what do I know about this Odu? And then I have to connect that memory to what I know. And these texts are very arcane, right? It's stuff from hundreds of years ago. So they'll be talking about village life, and we living in the city. And so it's like, so how can I apply what they're saying about this village situation in this river when I have a bathroom with flowing water? I'm not going to the river to wash clothes. I got a washing machine. So then I have to sit and translate the message. Some priests won't do it. Like old school priests will just give you the message like it is. They'd be like, if I said such and such, and be done. And you'd be like, well, what does that mean? Well, that's what Ifa said. Okay. Well, so for me, when I do divination, I try to take into effect what the ancient text is saying, and then how does it apply to new world, or not new world, but a modern situation.
And you said that you specifically do 16 karat divination. So there are other types of divination?
Absolutely. I mean, I do more than 16 carry, but I'm saying the bulk of my clients come to me for 16 carry divination. There's OB divination. There's these things called Obi Abata, which are four-lobe kola nuts, and they are very sacred to the Orisha in our tradition and all of the spirits. So we can go and we can talk to our ancestors with these kola nuts. We can talk to Egbe with the kola nuts, and we can talk to all of the Orisha, and we give offerings of kola nut as a part of our weekly worship practice. And when we give the offerings of kola nut and we break them open and we cast them, we are given a message when we cast. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds about that, but maybe we can discuss that more during the actual workshop.
Okay.
And so there's Kola Nut Divination, which is the most basic form of divination. There is 16 carry divination, which is done mainly by Orisha priest. And then there's Opwele and Ikin divination, Opwele divination. And these are all in the West African Orisha traditions. Opwele is a divination chain that has 4 pods and 2 sides. So 4 pods on one side, 4 pods on the other side. And it is used by people, Babalaos or Ianifas, or people who are initiated into the Ifa Ekbe. Like an Orisha priest will not use Ikin divination or Opwele divination. And so based on your priesthood will be the type of divination you use and the type of training you receive for that divination. And so OB divination has 5 different Odus, or sacred texts, or not texts, but sacred signatures. It has 5 sacred signatures. And each of those sacred signatures has a particular message. With 16 cowries, we have 17 sacred signatures, because you have the 16 and then none, if that makes sense. With Ifa, with Ikin and Opwele divination, you have 256 sacred signatures that can come. So you will see that the Ifa divination is the most thorough, because you have 256 messages versus 17 or 5 messages. And then some priests will also divine with 2 kola nuts, 2 low kola nuts, and also 2 cowrie shells, but those are very special cases.
So my last question is whether or not you end up working with people that have mental health concerns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and it can be challenging sometimes, because a person with mental health, some people with mental health challenges will have delusions. And so you have to be able to separate when a person is having a delusion and when they're talking to an ancestral spirit, because in our spiritual system, we do speak to the spirits. It's absolutely normal and regular. There's nothing strange about it. Ancestors talk to me every day. And so you have to be able to assess whether or not the person is having a delusion, or whether or not they're actually talking to their grandmother or auntie or grandfather or cousin, and then sometimes it can be difficult, because sometimes they sound rational, but when they start sounding irrational, then you be like, oh, maybe this person is having a delusion and I need to refer them to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So it has happened. It has happened. Or they'll have problems that don't have anything to do with delusions. um, and sacrifice is not going to cure. It's not going to cure severe depression. It's not. What it can do is open the way for the healing to occur. It will shift their perspective in their mind for them to be open enough to receive healing from a person who's trained to do that. And I will tell people, like, I'm not a psychologist. I can't help you with that. I can listen to you, but I really feel like you need to go speak to someone who is trained to help you through this particular situation. Well, what I can do is open the road for this healing that you will get from the Western medical practitioner to be more effective for you. And I find that working together with practitioners has been really, really good and wonderful. And people will come back and tell me, yes, I went to see this person. I talked about it. And, can we go and make this offering to my ancestors because I want to deal with this family situation over here. So it's like they work together.
Okay. So you're not. So it sounds like for you, you wouldn't necessarily tell people just to come to you and not to go to
Oh,
other practitioners.
oh no. Oh no. No, no, no. Because people have serious issues. Like Ifa is not a cure-all. I mean, maybe some Ifa priests will believe that, but I've just seen it happen too many different ways that people need to go to a doctor. Like you wouldn't tell a patient they shouldn't go see their heart doctor if they have a heart murmur. Just because you went and came and got a sacrifice done, why wouldn't they go see a mental health practitioner? You got a broken arm, but the Ifa priest gonna set your arm? No, you gotta go see a doctor. Like, so the same thing where people have physical ailments and have to go see doctors, people have mental ailments and they need to go see a doctor, whether it's a PhD doctor or an MD doctor. They need to go see a doctor because I'm not equipped for some of those mental issues. Now, sometimes if people just have kind of maybe mild anxiety or mild depression, then doing Ori work with them will help. Ori meaning your head. So there are ceremonies that we do that specifically deal with the consciousness. And what I have found is not my patients, but my clients that have anxiety who come back like regularly for Ori work, that it helps calm their anxiety. Like they might have even been on some type of medication, and doing the Ori work over a period of time helps them shift from the medications where they can manage it more. But these are very mild cases. These are not like people stuck in a house because they're fearful of going out or have severe panic attacks. These are just like, oh, I get kind of nervous doing this thing. And I'm like, okay, well, let's center ourselves. Let's do our Ori ritual. And then before you do this thing again, let's center yourself without me present and call upon the spirit of your head to assist you. And so those are ways I work with clients who have mild issues.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. So perhaps that's something we can talk about on June 12th.
Okay.
Is more about the anxiety and how Ori work to help people that have mild cases of anxiety. Okay, well there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is Osundele Olaifa Onifade, and she is an amazing Reiki Master in addition to being a priestess in the Yoruba or the West African
Orisha
tradition. And so I hope that you join us on June 12th. She will be one of the speakers along with two other guests that will come and talk about the ways that if you have clients that are going to receive Reiki treatments or they're getting divination and you want to be able to understand that more and know what that looks like. So like the example that she just gave of a client that has anxiety and she may be going to a priest to have work done to also treat that anxiety, then how do you work with that client and productively work with a healer in the community? So I hope that you join us on June 12th. Take care.